today on this Cafecito. I'm excited to have this conversation with Patty Vila and such an interesting topic about communications. Because we are in a world where communications have become critically important in our day to day, not only by our interactions, but just by all these other platforms and places where we can intentionally or unintentionally share ideas, get ideas, and just position ourselves. And I would love to hear from our expert, Patty, so she can bring us up to speed in this ever changing. It's not an industry, it's just that in this ever changing space, I feel like every day something's different. So,
Yes.
Patty, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here with you.
I'm excited. So let's start. I would love to just hear a little bit about you and how you got into communications, and within that, what have you seen as how communications have changed?
Well, let me start by saying that I've been in communications for the last 4 decades. I started when I was 19 years old. I started my career at CNN, where I worked for 8 years as a secretary when I graduated from PR University here in Miami. And was able to work for Channel 6 locally, which is the NBC affiliate, Channel 4, which is the CBS affiliate. And I even worked for WGN and NBC Nightly News when Tom Brokaw was the anchor. I then decided that I wanted to take my talent and go into public relations and marketing. And the rest is history. And here I am with Patty Vila Media and helping different brands elevate their names in the community. So I wanted to start by saying, answering the question that you asked, where are we going in communication? Everything is just so fluid and everything is changing so fast. The first thing I want to talk about is AI. AI will play a key role in the PR industry. AI is intended to enhance human capability and not replace it. And I want to just share my personal journey with AI. I'll be honest, I was scared when it all started coming out and people were talking about it, and that little fear gets into you. But when I went to a lecture at Miami-Dade College and I was talking to the president of the Hialeah campus, and we had one of the directors, one of the chairs, and he said the exact same thing. When AI came out, he was totally against it, and now he embraces it, and he tells people how important it is to educate yourself. So if you have to take a class, I will be signing up for a class this coming March at Miami-Dade College, obviously to stay, current with how communication is changing. The second thing I wanted to mention is that video and audio content is crucial now more than ever. Podcasts, we all know, very important. If you don't have one, start one. If not, partner with someone. These platforms that you do are so, so important for everyone to get their message out and what they're doing. And it's in high demand. And I'm gonna start next month, as a matter of fact, because I've been doing a lot of reading of what different universities are saying about where public relations is going. I never thought that I would be reading a press release on video and sharing that with my audience. So people are really starting to do that, because since we're bombarded by so many messages on a daily basis, we need to try to stand out with our followers and with our community. So reading press releases is a thing that people are gonna and brands are gonna start doing. In a recent study by HubSpot, 54% reported that they wanted to see videos from their favorite brands. So that's why I say that with the branding, it's getting more sophisticated and more sophisticated and more sophisticated. And I don't know if you saw, but Forbes magazine just came out with a article that says social media influencers, that space is completely fierce competition for who can be the top influencer when it comes to social media.
Oh my God, like you just said so many things that I was writing here that I think are critically important to understand. But before I ask the questions about AI and all this video content and the press releases, which really took my attention, I want to ask like the taking a step back. Why is it important for us as individuals to understand that we need to do something in this? Because before it was brand, or you're in the media, or if you're a celebrity. But that's not for me, right? Like I have my little business, or I'm a career professional somewhere. Why do you think that it's important for us to think about ourselves as a brand or as putting ourselves out there, or is it still just the influencers and the people that are putting themselves out there for a specific reason?
No, everybody needs to see themselves as a brand. Everybody needs to think of themselves as their own business, whether they have their own business or not, or you're working for a company, you need to be your own brand. What we have is a reputation. And that's why I always say, when people call you, respond within 24 hours. Always be put content on social wherever you are, wherever you're networking, so people know what you're doing and how it is that you're communicating. And that is more important than ever, since we're being bombarded in so many different ways, and it's causing a lot of stress and anxiety. I have to say, as some people know, I worked in the healthcare industry for 10 years, and we did a lot of stories about how social media consumes our time, makes us anxious, sometimes doesn't even allow us to sleep. And I learned this all with the doctors that I was working with. So, take it in small doses, but we all definitely need to be on social.
So how do we start? Where do we choose? What are the key, I don't know, tips or things that you would share to somebody that's not a influencer, right? They're not out there, but they're clearly trying to get into the right direction with everything that's happening. Like, how would you go about that? Give the
Well,
advice to somebody that's starting.
exactly. No, definitely. If you are not on LinkedIn and you are not active, you need to be on LinkedIn. You need to start growing your presence. I've been on LinkedIn for over 10 years now. I have 13,000 contacts there. And LinkedIn is definitely where the platform is to be, to showcase what it is you're working on, who you're networking with, what nonprofit organizations you're affiliated with, what is your company doing, everything that you can post that shows where you are, what you're doing, and how can you partner with other brands is very, very important. As a matter of fact, I wanted to give some statistics on LinkedIn, because in 2003, LinkedIn had 600 million registered members. And in this last year, they're over 900 million. So it's a great place and platform to start your network.
How about Instagram? Because I know that Instagram has also grown, but it depends on who you are and what you do. Some people are either on LinkedIn or on Instagram. I know that for us, for our members at United Latinas, it's either one or the other. I mean, we are on both, but we know that some people are on one or on the other. And then TikTok is, taking this whole new life of its own. And then YouTube. How do you choose, or what would you recommend to choose?
Very, very great, very, very good question. You need to be on every single platform. I have seen a decline, and maybe this is different for different people, but for me personally, I've seen a decline with some of the brands I'm working with on Facebook. Instagram is definitely the place to be. Everybody wants that Instagrammable picture. I'm going to give you a perfect example. I'm working with Chef James, who just opened up the restaurant La Doña here in Sawgrass Mall in Broward County in Sunrise. And they participated in a fashion show where they had an umbrella, and the model was walking with the umbrella with churros hanging. So when people saw that on Instagram and on social media and other platforms, and actually at the fashion show, it was called Fashion and Art. Many people came to the restaurant, and when we brought out the churros, they said, "Oh, but we wanted it in the umbrella, not on the plate." So the Chef Patrick, quickly, and Chef James quickly had to improvise and say, how are we going to create this masterpiece? And they sure did. So when people order their churros now, they get served with the umbrella and the churros hanging around the umbrella. So those are the types of things that I'm talking about, that that people and brands need to pay attention to. What is it that your consumer and your customer wants in order to make them a repeat customer as well as a loyal customer?
That's a fascinating example. I want to go back to the AI piece of it,
Yes.
because for many of us that we're not communication experts,
Right.
or that we're not writers, or that we are not, perfect speakers, AI, to your point, can become a good sort of left arm or right arm to support us in this process. Can you tell us a little bit more of what you're looking on your end?
Well, I think that anybody that is using AI really needs to, if they use it, they need to read through it. I have seen people that are using it, and you can tell that it's not coming from the message is not coming from the heart, or actually the mind. AI is does make mistakes at times, or duplicates words, and I know that they're working on that. But I have read articles in magazines where people, or online magazines, where people have done profiles on themselves, and you see the repeating of the paragraphs and the words, and the message that they're trying to send. And when I get to the end of that article, I always say, "Wow, obviously the author did not read through what they are trying to showcase in the story that they are telling."
Yes, you're absolutely right. We definitely need to uh, go through it and not just copy and paste the answers. And by the way, I do want to call out the echo that I know some of you are hearing. We can't figure out where it's coming from. Actually, before we started, when we were in the back, eh, we were trying to see, all these things. So apologize for the echo. Um, so there's also radio, there's also TV, there's also newspaper. For a lot of us, it might seem like, oh my God, again, that's for artists and celebrities. That's not for me. Any thoughts? Is it really like not for me? Or like, do we just stay on LinkedIn and Instagram? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that everybody needs to be everywhere, and if you are given an opportunity to be on the radio or on television, absolutely take it. But let me tell you what's going on in television. I wanted to share that in the past few weeks, Univision has had a lot of layoffs. And the mentality there is that they're going to go from a two-person anchor newscast to a one anchor newscast, one anchor, and they're even going to get rid of the TV, the people that are behind handling the camera shots and moving the teleprompter up, and each anchor will have to use a pedal, like if you're driving, to move the teleprompter up. So that shows you how news is changing. One thing that makes me very sad and worried at the same time is the industry that's going on, what's going on in the industry of the newspaper. As you saw, or people, if you've been reading and following communications, newspapers are shrinking across the United States. And that's basically due to hedge funds coming in and buying them and caring more about the monetary profit that they're making, instead of doing a caring about the community and showing, what's really truly going on in the community and the news. This really is concerning to me, because as newspapers and reporters are being laid off across our country, this also gives an opportunity for a lot of misinformation to be out there. And that's why I say, we were talking earlier, everybody needs to be their own brand. Everybody needs to be communicating their message correctly, and be aggressive about it, and be out there because of what is going on in the world of communications. And I just wanted to give everybody a tip, whether you're in communications or not, or some advice or a platform that you can sign up for that's absolutely free. It's called Haro, Haro. They send you 3 links a day. And if you own your business and you want to get out there, yes, it is a little tedious to read all through the opportunities that the reporters are asking for to have a expert be interviewed. And sometimes you send in your responses and you don't get chosen. But trust me, I've been chosen to do some interviews there, as well as some of my clients.
Yes, I have it. I'm subscribed, and you're right. It can be really great, but it can also take time to read through all of them.
Yes.
You mentioned something important about there's a lot of news outlets out there, and many are not necessarily the more respectful, or they're just trying to get your money, basically? How do you choose, or how do you recommend people really go through the vetting process of which ones are true and which ones are just trying to hook you?
Right. I think everybody really needs to do their homework when it comes to media. You need to know, what side they're lean on. I think you need to know, who the anchor is, who's the reporter, are they honest? I remember back in the day, just to give you an example how all media has changed. When Ted Turner started CNN back in the day, they used to call it cable chicken noodle news. That's what it was called. CNN was called Chicken Noodle News when it started in Atlanta, Georgia. And, he was the father of 24-hour news. But just to show you how much that has changed, when I started working for CNN, there was 18 people in our bureau. And now the Miami bureau is practically non-existent, and they have a person in Orlando. Instead of doing really deep stories and stories 3 or 4 minute pieces, these huge documentaries that they used to do, they've cut that. And you see that at NBC, MSNBC, CNN, Fox. It's all about the talking head, and that's why a lot of people have lost interest in watching, practically, and watching. And besides that, we have a lot of choices where we can get our news or who we want to see. So I think everybody, you're pitching, you want to get your message out there, you want to connect with the reporters. Make sure when you email them, make sure you create a catchy, paragraph, not too long. Don't bombard them. And one thing, because I do really try here in Miami-Dade County and South Florida to go to lectures where reporters are speaking, and one of their pet peeves, and this, I couldn't believe it when I've heard it, but I've already heard it several times, so I know it's true, by these reporters, is that sometimes when you are pitching a reporter, they don't even put the name of the reporter. They'll just say to whom it may concern, or good morning, or anything. They don't even address the reporter by name. And then reporter writes back, and the person sometimes doesn't follow up. So make sure that whatever reporter you're in conversation with or trying to get their attention, make sure you follow up, if it's by phone or by email.
That is so true, and
I
it's
couldn't
just
believe those stories, but I've already heard it so many times by different reporters here in Miami, that, and especially, I used to be an assignment editor, and the assignment editor is really the heart of the newsroom. We're the ones that would, receive all the calls. We're the ones that get all the breaking news. We're the ones that are listening to the police scanners. We're the ones that are sending the reporters and the photographers out in the field to capture the stories. And when you call them, don't say, hey, say, hey, how are you? My name is so and so. Try to make your 30-second or 45-second pitch quickly, because they are going through hundreds and hundreds of emails that are being flooded into into the assignment desk.
yes, yes, I can imagine. Just like we get overflowed,
Yes.
just looking at social media, I can just imagine.
Yes.
Tell us about cancel culture. Like, how do we navigate that, or what are any tips, any thoughts, any insights?
Canceled culture.
Like, I keep hearing the concern of, I don't want to be putting myself out there because I might just get canceled, and I
Right.
think that stops us from putting ourselves out there, which is important. So how can we still be mindful? But are there any thoughts?
Listen, I think, once again, I think that we shouldn't think of ourselves that way. Listen, I've had rejection, right? I know people don't like to talk about it, but I've had rejection, and we all have experienced it on many different levels. And someone that I love to follow, and I would actually love to meet him one day, is Garvey, because Garvey talks about when he started, his social media. He was in the basement of his parents' home. During the day, he's selling wine, right? And at night, it took him 4 years, 4 to 5 years, to get to where he is right now. And he always talks about put content. Who cares what it looks like? Obviously you want it to look terrible, but when you're starting, it's like, get out there. Don't be afraid of rejection. And I think that's very, very important. We shouldn't be, and we should test different things. I'm going to tell you, I wanted to share with everybody something that happened to me personally. And you can go to my TikTok, Patty Villa Media. That's what the name of my platforms are on social media. And my niece this past November was in the Macy's Day Parade, and I shot some beautiful video, posted it up. I got a couple hundred likes, nothing big. And in January, I said, you know what? I know this video can go viral. And I was testing it with myself. I really wanted to see if I could make it go viral, right? Because sometimes we don't even know it's going to go viral. And in January, I posted the video again. And believe it or not, I have 100,000 likes on that video. And thousands of people have saved it. Hundreds of people have commented it, and has gone around the world because different languages have made comments on my TikTok. So for me, it has been, and I gained so far 700 followers on there. So it's just about testing video, testing messaging, testing words, hashtags. I'm fascinated by all of that because sometimes you think what's going to catch somebody's attention. It's like going back to the fashion and art and the event with La Doña, a restaurant that they were in this fashion and art. They had the umbrella with the churros, and now everybody wants it at the restaurant so they can have their Instagrammable moment. That's what it's about. That's the culture we're living in right now. So my word of advice is don't be afraid of making mistakes. Put yourself out there because honestly, you never know where it's going to lead.
You mentioned that's important, and you talk about this Instagrammable moment,
Yeah.
even the words, right? Like we would have never thought about what an Instagrammable moment is, and now in events, it's something that you need to keep in mind. Of do you have the wall? Do you have the whatever it is? What are as we head into the final moments of today? Any additional like tips, advice, places or thing not places, things that we need to follow online to get more, information or comfortable in this subject?
Right. I think a couple things I want to leave everyone with today is when you have because there's so much that we can talk about. Maybe we could do another segment on communications because there's so much to cover. Number one, if you're ever faced with a crisis, please respond right away. Please call the reporter. Don't hide. Even if you know the company you're working for is at fault, you need to put out some type of statement, and obviously check with your attorneys of the company because that's how I used to work when I was in the healthcare industry with Tenet Healthcare. Number one. Number two, a big one, corporate social responsibility. I really do not align myself with brands that are not into corporate social responsibility. I love the nonprofit world. I love giving back. And I think we all need to take that really into consideration because that's what's going to help us elevate our brands. I think everybody, especially, I say this, the world is on fire, right? The world is going through a crisis. We're all living this crisis. We all see it on the news. Some of us are going through things ourselves. And I think something that's going to make a difference and shift is when we're giving back to our community. I've been giving back to my community since I was 14. I know you have as well. I know many of our members have, and I think that's really going to make a difference in hopefully trying to put the flames out in the world that we're living in at this very moment. And network. You guys did an amazing networking event here in Miami-Dade recently. The panel was excellent. Gigi did the vision board. She was terrific. I mean, I met a bunch of ladies that I had never met before. And that's really what has attracted to me, to the community that you've created. I think it's terrific, and I can't wait to go to the next one. So network.
Yes, and we are having events soon. You're going to start seeing them on our website. Not only in Miami, we have in Vegas, here in the Northeast, and in a lot of other places. Thank you so
Thank you.
much
Thank you.
for like we do have to do a volume, a second version of this. 'Cause you're right,
Yes.
like there's a lot more to talk about, and hopefully without the echo.
Yes, for sure.
But thank you so much,
Thank
Patty.
you. Thank
And
you.
thank you so much, everybody. And see you next week.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day wherever in the world you are.
Thank you.